the Board of Education and Business Committee meeting to order. And I'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people. We have the agenda before you, but I would ask your permission to move the inquiry program above They Speak, even though Tatiana wants to stay to hear what we have to say. So, let the children go first before we have Brian, who may take a little longer. Any objections to that change in the agenda? Moved by Trustee Spilsbury, seconded by Trustee Root. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes of October 25th. Oh, I apologize. I know we have regrets from Trustee Croft, and I expect Trustee Doman to be arriving shortly, but we haven't heard from Trustee Thorne. Minutes of October 25th.
So moved.
Thank you. And seconder? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Action list. Short action list. Doesn't mean nothing's being done. Who's speaking to this?
I can begin. Board communication goals. We have the strategic planning process completed. We have the document printed, beginning its distribution at various events. And then I believe we have, coming up in a subsequent meeting, beginnings of conversation around the action plan, actioning those items, bringing that forward to the board.
Any questions on that? National flag, done. Done? Like that, thanks. Okay, delegations. The inquiry program at Cowichan Secondary School. Lisa, Elizabeth?
Lisa. And Elizabeth, yeah, and Tatiana.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, we wanted to tell you a little bit about what's happening at the Quamagen campus of Cowichan Secondary. This program started off at a hurried start late in September. We saw an opportunity to be able to try something different there, so we decided to give that a go. I spoke with Lori Herniak and Nicole Boucher there, and they asked if I'd be all right to try this. A little bit of my background was that I was one of our district helping teachers for the last 3 years, and so I've been fortunate enough to have lots of exposure to the new curriculum and lots of background in inquiry learning and things like that. And anyway, so we started this program up, and some of you may have read that article that's out there right now showing Finland saying the first country to get rid of subjects completely in their teaching. Well, I like to think that we're tied because we also are doing that same thing. So basically, I started this classroom. We don't have any subjects teaching in there at all. Basically what we do is the learners do projects. So they do projects in areas of their own particular interests. And then what we do is we look at those projects that they've done, these inquiries, and they review the curricular competencies on the new curriculum, and they tie in the different curricular competencies to what they've been doing. So basically we do that instead of, okay, now it's science, and now it's English, and now it's social studies or things like that. So it's basically all through that. And it's driven pretty much by them. It's actually, I'd say it's driven pretty much completely by them, yeah. And we're doing things all over the place. We're getting out as much as we can into the community, we're getting involved, and it's very much following the First Peoples principles of learning in terms of everybody has a voice, and it's very respectful. We have our sharing circles and things like that, and we do all of our decision making through this collaborative sharing process, which I don't always get what I want, and that happens quite frequently. But it's okay because it's a collaborative process, and it's how we work it out together. So it actually works quite well. We brought people into the program through 3 different routes. One was through applications. The second was through recommendations through our learning services team, and the third was they were drafted. So it was a mix of people who came either willingly or not willingly into the program. And so what's been most interesting, as Tatiana will be able to tell you, Liz chose, but Tatiana did not. And so they both can give you their insights on what it's like to go into this completely different way of learning. So I'm going to pass it to them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I first heard about the Explore class, I heard about it from totally different people. I didn't hear it from Miss Marshall. these ladies came into our class and they were kind of explaining it, and I noticed that a lot of people didn't want to go into it, and I thought, hey, might as well try this, because it's good to try new things. And once I got in the class, I think of it as a stress-free class, because as you know, that high school is just really stressful, and it's not as stressful as other classes, like Miss Marshall, she kind of just lets us. She asks us if we're ready to hand in our independent studies. And in other classes, if you don't hand that in, your grade goes down a little bit, and once you're not handing that in, you're trying to get that done. And in other classes, you have other classes to deal with, and I'll just kind of get stressful. And last year that happened to me. I fell behind, and my assignments were just dropping because I couldn't get all of them done all at once. And the Explore class has really helped me because it's not as stressful as the other classes, because last year I dropped out the last 3 weeks of school and my grades went down. And I'm really glad that this Explore class has been created, because it really helps me get my work done and stay focused, and it helps me keep going even when I do get depressed. But if I were in regular classes, I would be thinking about too many things, and it would just get way too stressful for me to be in class. So I think of the Explore class as a stress-free class.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I came in 3 weeks late, right? So there was no room for me in any of the other classes apparently. So I got to put in the Explore class. I personally did not like it at first. I thought it was going to be for special people who had learning disabilities, and I didn't think I had any. So, but after 2 days, I loved it, because, like she was saying, it's a stress-free class, and you get to, like, instead of doing like a whole bunch of subjects and like going straight out of the book, you get to like do the inquiry project stuff, and you learn what you want, like what you're interested in, and I feel very engaged with everything I'm learning, and I love it. It's just amazing, and the environment there, it's like home, you know. Yeah, I think it's helping a lot of kids who have learning disabilities anyways, you know, getting their work done. Like last year I didn't get all my work done, and I barely remember anything that I learned supposed to learn last year. But now I think it's starting to stick to me. Thank you.
I don't know if you have any questions for.
I'm sure we do. So are you in the Explore class all day, or just half day, or one period, or what is it?
We have the Explore class for all of our main classes, and we're not in the Explore class for the electives.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm responsible for math, science, socials, English, careers, PE.
So we're only outside of the class for our exploratory classes, like art or drama or cooking, sport.
So it would be like a half-day program?
It depends. When the students have their exploratories, it varies by student. So I have some students that have 2 or 3 exploratories this semester, and some students that have none or 1. So I might see some all day, or I might see some for only 1 or 2 blocks. So it varies.
And so my second question is, when you choose a project, how, if you're working in more than a group of 1, so how do you make that choice? If you want to build a rocket, but you want to build a sailboat.
She builds the rocket, she builds the sailboat. It's individualized. Yeah. So far, actually, nobody has chosen to work together. So they've all chosen individual topics and projects.
That's a lot of work for the teacher.
Yeah.
Questions from trustees?
Thank you for your presentation and for welcoming me when I came to visit. It was really exciting to see the collaborative decision making that was going on in the classroom. I wonder, it's grade 8 and 9, I believe.
Mhm.
So what will happen at the end of this semester? Will you continue with that?
It's the
routine?
full year.
Okay.
Yeah, it is the full year. So you're thinking at the end of the year or at the end of the semester?
Or both?
The end of the semester, we just continue on. So we're just on a full year program similar to an elementary classroom might be. The blocks might change that they're with me because their electives for next semester might be in a different time, but we still just continue on. And for next year, I've already had learners asking me what their options are for next year. So we know that there's the community classroom of the other school. There's land-based that's over there, and we certainly have every hope that this is going to continue for another year too. So that's where our thoughts are now.
Can I just say congratulations on getting it up and running and so quickly, and we're having wonderful kids in there who really are engaged.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So where did you go to find out how to do this?
A lot of time in my own head. So that's actually probably one of the biggest challenges about it is that it is all brand new. So, for example, Jeff Hopkins down in the Pacific School of Inquiry and Innovation, they're doing something like this, but really I have yet to find anybody, and maybe it's just that I don't know, but I have yet to find anybody who is doing something like this, so I actually find that's the bulk of my time is inventing. Yeah, so I remember Rod mentioning at one time that, getting into this new curriculum is like being a new teacher, and I actually disagree because it's more like being a pioneer. Because the new teachers at least have their mentors to get things from, here's a lesson plan, make it your own, where I'm finding that I'm creating it all from scratch and doing lots of, one step forward, one step back, or two step forward, one step back, try it this way, oh wait, no, that's not going to work, so let's go, okay, we'll try it this way. Okay, that worked, but we need to add this bit that's missing. So I find it's a lot of that.
That's exciting.
It is. It's very interesting.
I'm sure.
Thank you. One of the things that I think is absolutely unique about this program is its interesting structure, in that you don't have community classroom has the kids all day, every day.
That's right.
They're not coming and going. Their group is kind of set.
Yes.
Land-based, the group is set. You're working in a model where that's not the case. How has that tricky model helped, hindered? I'm sure it's done some of both.
Yeah, exactly. I would say that when I think of it from a meta-analysis point of view, I consider that this is probably closer to what the average teacher would experience because it's not outside of the timetable. It's within the timetable with all the timetable constraints that go with it. So, and we've had our issues around having to get access to the technology, which we need to share with everybody, and all of those things that go with being part of a school, right? So from that point of view, I think that if anything, we're a true model of what it will be like for all of our teachers going forward. So from that point of view, I find it quite exciting because I get to sort of see what that's like rather than just taking yourselves out of it and not having to deal with all those issues that go on. The advantages I see is that it keeps everybody connected to the school and to the whole school as a community because they are still part of it. They go off and they see other peers in these different situations and they get to still be involved in that greater situation. They get their choices of electives and things like that. If they're really enjoying PE, they're getting more of that and such, where, for example, in the community classroom, they have that one choice of elective that they're doing, which is art. So I like the fact that they get to be involved in that. The disadvantages are that I have to figure out how to facilitate the learning with a varying amount of time and a varying structure of individuals over the course of the year. And I have to say there's, many 3 a.m. moments where I'm going, how are we going to do math? Right? So, things like that, right? So those kinds of thoughts through my mind, how to do that. And as I said, that's part of the pioneer aspect of it. The next 6 people that do this, if we can get in conversation, we'll be able to figure that out together, but you have to figure it out at the beginning, right? So that's what I'm finding with it. So, and if there's too much fraction, I'm not thinking of the right word, split up of the timetable and I don't see them enough of them, then my concern is covering all the curricular competencies and core competencies and such that they need to. But then I talk to myself and say, I think I'm probably worrying too much. So it's that balance between, don't take on everything. It's okay. Peace, right? So it's that, yeah. I don't know if that answered your question. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to hearing what happens in the spring.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Our next delegation is Brian Carlos, Chief Executive Officer of the CBRD. Welcome, Brian.
I'm going to grab a chair there.
Thank you, everybody. So I'm here to speak to you about Play Speak. I think the invitation came about from a conversation that Rod and I had about some of the things that we're working on at the CBRD. Just to let you know, Rod and I try to get together regularly just to compare notes and understand what our respective organizations are up to and see if there's opportunities for us to collaborate. And this may be one that you may want to take advantage of. I'm far from an expert on Play Speak. Unfortunately, Cynthia Lockery, our Manager of Strategic Services, was going to be here with me today, but she's attending a conference, communications conference back east. So I'll attempt to do some justice to the system. We were approached, so it was a solicitation on the part of the company. Basically, what it is, it's an online platform for public engagement. This company is a startup company out of Vancouver, I believe out of Vancouver. And what they are attempting to do is to provide a platform like Facebook, like other social media platforms, only very structured. And the unique thing about it is it's geographic based. So anyone who is a participant in Play Speak has to register in terms of who they are and in terms of where they live, so that there is a geographic reference to them. You actually have, and I've registered myself as a resident. You have to put in your home address, so spatially they know where the people are from. And so then when you get into a system of public consultation, you know that the people that you're engaging with are your residents or your constituents. It's a very flexible platform. But the power of it is in how many people subscribe. And you don't subscribe to Play Speak to simply engage with the CBRD or to engage with the municipal government or to engage with a nonprofit. Once you have signed up and you're on Play Speak, you have access to any agency that uses Play Speak to do their work. So essentially what you do is you sign up, you indicate where you live, and then you indicate in your preferences what types of issues you want to be aware of, and then what's the radius. So for example, I live in Saltaire, I may just be interested in knowing what's going on in the Saltaire, Chauny, Ladysmith area. I could alternately say I want to find out what's going on in all of southern Vancouver Island. And then you pick categories of subject matter that you may be interested in. So you get notifications of items that you've registered an interest in would come directly to you via email, and then you would have the ability to log on. So as a user, that's how it works. Interestingly, a good example that we had been looking at, there are a number of residents in the Cowichan Valley that are already subscribers to Play Speak, and they signed up because of an initiative in the Capital Regional District where they were doing an arts and culture engagement process. And because many of their customers in the CRD come from the Cowichan Valley, there were many people that had an interest in that, and they had signed up. So they're already on Play Speak. There are potential constituents that we can engage with. And so it's interesting that they cross boundaries. Now, if the Capital Regional District was setting up their engagement process, they can put in parameters around who can provide input or who they consider the input from. So they might get input from people all over Vancouver Island and Lower Mainland, but they would set the parameters up so that only those that were in their jurisdiction actually, their voice counts. And you can set that up in terms of boundary. So in the example of the school district, you could set the boundary up of your school district, so only those people that live within the school district would have input. Or you could have a catchment area for a particular school. and that only those folks would have input. So it's, and again, I'm not even coming close to doing it justice. The folks in PlaySpeak could be more than happy to come and show you the, you know, how it's all laid out. What we're doing, when we first got approached, we saw it as a very valuable tool for us in many of the processes that we undertake. But again, as I say, the power is in the number of people in your community that have signed up. And we couldn't help but think that the City of Duncan, municipality of North Cowichan, Ladysmith, Lake Cowichan, and even the school district would benefit from our collective constituents being part of this program. So we're actually going to subscribe. We've struck a deal with PlaySpeak, and we'll be giving some preferential pricing. The CBRD is going to subscribe on behalf of the entire regional district, so our municipal partners won't have to pay a subscription fee. We're going to cover the cost for the first year, and they're all going to get their own, what the company calls a dashboard. So each one of the jurisdictions will have their own dashboard, so they'll be able to initiate their own processes, their own consultations for their own initiatives. But we will all benefit from the collective participation of our residents. We're going to do a launch probably in January in terms of making the public aware of our use of PlaySpeak, and we'll be throwing some kind of a bit of a teaser process out to get people involved. Something like having people sign up and provide their favorite secret place to visit or to enjoy in the Cowichan Valley. Just something, a bit of a teaser to get people to sign up and participate. We do have some initiatives coming down that we will very much be using it in a formal manner, but the key is to get people signed up and to get people familiar with it, because once we have them and once they've subscribed, then we have the ability to reach out to them and engage with them. So as I said, I was mentioning to Rod, it may very much be something that the school district would be interested in. You know, whether you did it immediately or took some time to see how it unfolds for the other jurisdictions. Take some time to let the subscriber base in the Cowichan Valley build up so that there's a kind of a critical mass of folks that are engaged. I think what will happen is that every time a new issue emerges in the community, you will get another batch of people that will log on because they have a particular interest in that issue. But again, once they're on, and then we have the potential to access them. So,
Brian, a couple questions. So do we get the same deal as the member municipalities?
that you'd have to, we have to do some arm twisting on that one. But you know, I think given that, you know, we're kind of, they're very much, like you said, they're a startup. They're very much wanting to get out there and get some concrete examples of how it can work in a jurisdiction. We are the first regional district in the province that has come forward on behalf of its member municipalities and done a group buy. Generally, the jurisdictions will do them on a one-off basis, so we're kind of charting new territory for our region, doing it on behalf. Whether they would be willing to entertain some kind of a preferred pricing given the association with our local government side, I can't speak to that.
And you talked about demographics by region and sub-region, but can you do it by families with children and families without children? Like if we were to target, you know, for school-age children, and we wanted to ask a question of that cohort group versus the general population, can you break it further down?
I don't know that you could, because you don't enter that kind of information as a subscriber. It's really geographic based. So it's really about setting the geographic scope of the consultation that you want to have. And at a micro level, you could have it right down to the neighborhood. You could draw the lines of your consultation. What they do is their folks will work, for example, our GIS department. So if we had an engagement process on a water system within the CBRD, we could draw the line around that water system, provide that to them, and they would set it up with those parameters. So right down to the neighborhood level, right up to Southern Vancouver Island, if you so wanted. Interesting to have a look. If you log on to PlaySpeak, and the other aspect of it as well is it's considered open data. And so I've logged on and the City of Victoria, so it starts with a map. And you look at the map of BC and you can zoom in on any particular neighborhood, any area of the province. And you'll see a number of flags on areas in the Lower Mainland. And somebody is taking the open data from, say, the City of Vancouver rezoning applications, for example, and they're populating it in PlaceSpeak. So you can zoom right into a neighborhood and you can click on a button and it'll show that there's a rezoning application in that neighborhood. It tells you the details, the address, the nature of the rezoning, and people that are interested can engage in a conversation. What happens is that if, I believe it's more than 10 hits on a particular issue come up, PlaceSpeak notifies us and says, hey, you've got a hot topic. There's been some discussion generated about this particular issue, and then it allows us then to say, oh, looks like there's something going on there, then we can be proactive and reach out to, and again, I'm not doing it justice, but that's the kind of capability that this system has in terms of keeping on tops of issues in your community. And because once you get people talking, they start talking, and particularly if there's a hot topic, PlaceSpeak is set up to monitor that and to alert you when there's something happening that you may want to be aware of as an agency.
Any other questions, Justin?
A couple things. One is there any concern about input that is perhaps negative? So, you know, how do you deal with a negative response to a question? Do you have someone who's going to
Moderate.
moderate, or yes?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you're going to get negative responses. I think probably maybe the concern might be more inappropriate or abusive kinds of responses, which we see all the time in social media. The PlaceSpeak leaves it up to the agency that is undertaking the consultation. We monitor it, and if we are at a point where we feel that, because you can't be anonymous, you have to register with your name, with your address, we can ask, request that they be removed, a subscriber be removed from PlaceSpeak, and they will do that on our behalf. They don't do it proactively. They allow the agencies, whoever's use the word subscriber, but you know, if we had a prolific person that was coming on being abusive and conducting themselves inappropriately, then we would be making a request to have them removed from the system. So you do have to have somebody that's monitoring it and watching it, and because obviously you're engaging because you're looking for feedback. So in our case, you know, chances are it would be our communications manager, but it could be somebody in a specific department that's undertaking a particular initiative, and they would be assigned. And you'd get pushes, you'd get emails coming in, there's ways of notifying, so you're not having to sit and log on and be checking it constantly. You would getting reports, and that's where that dashboard comes in. So once you get a dashboard for your agency and you set up a particular initiative that you're consulting on, then you'll start getting reports and information will start flowing in on what's coming back on that particular initiative.
Just one other question, and that is one of the main things that we ask for input in is our budget. Can you see it being used in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anything that you're looking to get, you know, people providing feedback in or engaging in a conversation on, and it's how we present the information. And obviously, you can only get back what you put into it. So, you know, it's incumbent on the agencies to get that information out there, and whether it's done directly through PlaceSpeak or you refer them to your website or to other sources of information. But the intent is you would link them, so there'd be links obviously to all of it. But yeah, anything as broad as a budget right down to a specific initiative. You know, you were looking at a potential school closure. Classic example for your agency that you would be seeking public input on. You could establish the catchment area of that school. You could really hone in on who you wanted to be participating.
Was this Nicholas?
Thank you. Can a registered user of PlaceSpeak see the responses of other users to a question?
I believe so if it's an open dialogue. So much of it is open. It's an open exchange of views. People are conversing back and forth. The actual mechanics of it, I'm not quite certain if you can isolate so people can communicate directly with the agency without having their comments viewed publicly. I can't. I'm sure there must be, But I think generally the intent of it is to have an open conversation so that people are getting the benefit of others' views when they're talking about a particular issue. I think that's really where the value of those community conversations are, is that they're multifaceted.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
And you're gonna roll out in January.
We are getting together with our partners. The board has been informed of where we're going with it. We're getting together with our partner municipalities to determine some kind of an approach to roll it out into the community. And hopefully in early January we'll have it. And we're going to have quite a campaign, because I think, again, the more people we get involved, the more people we get subscribing, the more beneficial it is for all of us. So we're going to be taking a very active role in getting people familiar with it, comfortable with it. And it's going to take a few initiatives, a few hot topics in the community to get
Regional
people aware.
recreation.
But I think once they see the results, we'll start to get some good uptake.
Would the regional recreation be one of the top ones?
Could easily be one of them.
Subtle. Just one other thing, can you comment on Facebook versus or aligned with Facebook?
I mean, obviously Facebook isn't this structured. This is very much a structured process, and we're very much have the ability to the ability to manage the conversation. Whereas with Facebook, it is an open format. You kind of have to take what you get when you put stuff out there. We're very much, we're cautious. We use Facebook a lot. It's been a very effective way of us communicating messaging. It's not something I would want to be using regularly for conversations, though, because it can be difficult to manage, and it can kind of get out of control depending on the topics. So it's very similar, but a greater ability to manage and to keep the conversation civil and productive, versus some of the stuff that you might see on Facebook, where people have anonymity and they're able to go on and speak without having accountability for some of the things that they're saying. So we do use Facebook. It is in its own way a valuable tool.
Excellent.
Brian, thanks very much.
Thank you.
We look forward to
We'll keep you posted, and I'll bring Rod up to speed. Thanks, everybody.
Looking at education, business, and operations. Mr. Finquist, financial forecast. Good news story?
Thank you. As part of the financial governance of the board, role of the board is to receive regular updates on how we are doing and how we think we will be at the end of the year. So if you don't mind, I'll just go up to the screen. It's easier for me to walk through it there.
To see it?
To see it, yes. So column A represents what our budget looks like right now. And we are projecting an increase in revenue, which we haven't received yet. So we know that our student numbers were up when we submitted that on September 30th, and we're waiting for the ministry to do the calculation. But knowing the formula and the new student numbers that we have, we've adjusted our revenues to reflect that. And we brought budget stuff to you before. So really what I want to show you is at the bottom. One more line up, Gina, just a little bit more. We're still in a budgeted surplus position of $758,000. So that's money that the board hasn't allocated to a particular program so far. So that is always dynamically going up and down as we bring it to you. But so far, that is really represents mostly the surplus that we had from the last year. So the next thing we do is we begin to run projections based on information that we know today and patterns that we're starting to see emerging. Can we go back up to the top again, Gina? Yes, thank you. So here, all we've really made adjustments for are a couple of items. So far, we haven't managed to meet our target on international programming revenues. There was a couple of the summer programs that didn't happen that were overseas. We're still optimistic that through enrollments that come in the second semester, we might get there. But we don't have the money in the bank today, so I'm not projecting that we're going to be at full revenue today until we know otherwise. So when we look at all of those different revenue factors, I would say that we're probably coming in under by about $106,000 of what we know today. We're only 2 months in. We're still very early to be projecting where we're going to be at the end of the year. Lots of things can happen. When we look at our salaries, on the principal, vice principal salaries as an example, we look at where we are today. So that's the October 31st balance. I look at what if I put November's payroll in and December's and extrapolate that out to the end of the year. And we also adjust it for any known difference that we might have, such as wage increases and other things that are still to come. And when we do that, we're within $30,000 on a $4.2 million budget. It's really close. On teacher salaries, we do the same exercise, and in this case, we need to adjust for things like increments, where we know our salaries go up through the year, and other known factors. Teachers have a wage. Who's the QP? QP has it. It doesn't reflect potential May economic dividends. We don't know about that yet, but there would be revenue that would come with that. But even on that budget, we're still coming in pretty close, $63,000 on $32 million. Really close. One that we look to be a little bit over on right now is in our EAs, because we're projecting a number of, when we finally do fill those positions, what that's going to look like added back into our budget. So that could change if the positions aren't all filled immediately. I've made assumptions that we're going to have everybody in sometime in this month of November to fill those vacancies that we're working hard to do. But still, not that much over, really offset by the ones above on 5.8 million. Clerical, 6,700, pretty close when we do that exercise. USW is an interesting one, where it appears to be quite a bit under budget, and that is likely going to change, I think, as we move through the year. So with the steelworkers, they tend to do more capital work in the summertime, big outdoor projects, roofing and siding and the big window projects. They do more indoor stuff, which is the maintenance budget, the operating budget as we move into the winter months. So I expect that will tighten up a bit. So when you do a projection, that's what the last payroll looked like, extrapolated to the end of the year, and it may change a bit. So I would expect that actually to drop a little bit. And the other big one here is on our casual replacement, where really if the pattern that's happened in the first 2 months and last year continues, we'll be quite a bit under budget on casual replacements. So last year was a good year overall for sick leave for our employees. The first 2 months of this year look a lot like the first 2 months of last year. So there's 2 ways to do this exercise. One is to take the first 2 months of this year and add in the last 8 months of last year, what happened in the last 8 months of last year. That might give you an estimate of what it might look like if everything happens the same. And the other way we do it is to look at the first 2 months of this year and compare it to the last 2 months of last year. And if this year is 25% higher now than it was last year, we'd assume that the end of the year will be 25% higher than we were last year's year. Both those numbers come out really close. So one to watch. So as long as we don't get a really big flu bug or something changes, we may see some surplus there, but can't bank on it today because, of course, we're only 2 months through, but trending in the right direction. With employee benefits, really hard to project right now this early in because a lot of staff have fully paid their EI and CPP, and really we don't get a good handle on that until we run the first payroll in January. But I think it's easy to make an assumption that if you're going to be under on your salaries, you're probably going to be under on your benefits because they are linked, very closely linked. And on services and supplies, again, haven't shown any variances here. It's 219 is a very low utility amount in 2 months, so we had a pretty good startup as far as warmth. It was wet, but it wasn't really cold. You never know. We don't know what our winter's going to look like. We're not taking any chances to bring in any projection surplus on utilities and other and gas prices for running the bus fleet. I know gas pumps look a little bit better now than they did earlier in the summer, but overall we're still just sort of leaving those as status quo until we get a bit more of a pattern to look at. So when we look at that, I've shown you that the budget itself has $758,000 left. But on the budget, we're also projecting about $646 as being under budget of what we have set aside. So if that came to fruition and we added it to what we had left over, we would see a year-end surplus of about $1.4 million. So. makes sense.
Thank you. Any questions? Trustee Smith, you usually have a question.
I know my brain's going crazy, but I'll probably just email them to them. I'll email it to everybody, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is participation in Place Week. We heard a delegation from the CBRD. Mr. Allen, do you have any advice for us?
Don't know if I had advice. It seems like it's something new that's happening in the valley. It's happening in across our municipal partners. And I wonder if, with some questions still to be asked around cost and so on, if that's something the board would be interested in pursuing, so we're sort of coming in on the ground floor with everybody else and seeing how that plays out. We have some questions we're going to be asking the public and our families around busing and some of those things. That might be an opportunity to sort of come in on the ground floor with our municipal partners and see if this is a long-term thing for us or not.
Mr. Smith?
I was thinking that, just my own personal opinion, is I'd like to see them roll it out first, see what it looks like, see how many people are actually going to engage in it. Because if our families aren't engaging, then we'd be wasting money asking the questions, spending the time if it's not. I would really, maybe even as a private subscriber, go in and check it out and see exactly what this looks like. Because I was hoping to see some kind of a presentation just to actually walk through it and see what it really looks like and what can we actually gain from it and whether our families would even use it. So I would myself prefer to wait till January until this rolls out, find out the cost of it, find out exactly how many people are subscribing to find out if it is even a useful tool for what we would need it for.
Yeah, I understood that. If this communication officer was here, we would have seen that. Trustee DeGroot?
That's the point I was going to make. We don't have a communications officer or anyone that's responsible for communications. Obviously, this is going to take time for someone, and when we have issues around getting technology things changed, put out, our Facebook page is still sitting around and wherever, and the website, we know that gets done off someone's desk or several people's desks. So to me, this sounds like a great idea, but we really then need to be looking at having someone whose job it is to do those communication things, and that is the website, the Facebook page, and we were deciding to do this. That is part of their job. Maybe it's their only job. I don't know how big this job is, but it seems to me that that's something that we also need to consider. I just don't think this is great, but we don't have anybody to do it. So.
Yeah, the town of Randy Smith doesn't have a communications officer either, but we're buying into this, or CBRD is buying it the first year with us, so we're hoping to have it incorporated into the staff roles. Trustee Spoon.
Well, I'm going to agree with the other trustees that have spoken because we're probably not positioned to be ready for it, but we do need to have staff look into it. So I would move that staff investigate the advantages, disadvantages, and cost of participating in Place Speak, and the qualifications and cost of a communication/technology person to oversee.
Two
Oh,
separate
yes, it
motions.
could.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
This should be two separate,
Okay.
in my mind, two separate
All right,
motions.
I'm
Let's
at the
deal with
end
the
of-
investigations, Place Week first.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I made the motion on
Is there a second for the investigation placement? Trustee DeGroot, any discussion on that? And by the way, I'm hoping that, I'm gonna go home and take it registered and see what it looks like, if we all take it upon ourselves just to play with it. When somebody says about the people, like, our staff spent a fair amount of time developing a survey that we sent out by paper, by email, whatever, and to me, if you actually have a solid foundation base built, they would just fill in, it's already populated, it would be far easier. So we're spending a fair amount of time on communication. Is it the most effective time? I'm hoping that this program will actually roll out to be reducing time for our staff. No more discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Now you have a second motion to the Board of Trustees.
yes. Okay, let's put that the qualifications needed and cost of, and time required of a staff person to manage our communications / technology. And the reason the end, if someone would.
Because you said- And now you want to speak to it, yes.
Okay. I am thinking of the communications that is technological. So the website, yes, it's up and running, but it's really the same pictures have been on there since the beginning. I still can't read it, and it's ad hoc to have something up there. The next thing is around Facebook that we've talked about. Maybe we want a trustee's Facebook. Who would manage that? I don't. I'm kind of interested in a staff person doing that, and the other piece would be PlaySpeak. So it's communication / in a technological way.
Trustee Smith.
I will support the motion because I wanna know what it's gonna cost us if parents don't buy in. Because I'm really concerned that parents won't buy in because they too have to buy a subscription to go on and be, like, they don't have to pay to be a subscriber, only businesses do. So with what we know, with the amount of surveys that have come in both via email and paper, and we know how many didn't really come in, is this actually gonna be effective? Because we've been struggling to try and figure out, will parents go to their computer? Like, I'm not sold that this is an avenue for us at all, to be quite honest, but I would like to know the costs, because that will solve me one way or another.
Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Any other business? Seeing that we have a next meeting at 5 o'clock. Next door or next door? Expecting a crowd?
Yeah.
We're
all
set
of
up for the
us.
crowd.
Motion to adjourn? Thank you.
Nobody comes.
All those in favor?
Late.
All those motion